Understanding Ancient Philosophy. I'm going to read and comment a little bit, okay? One must be careful in thinking that philosophia first appeared with Pythagoras, who visited all the Egyptian priests, acquiring all the wisdom each possessed, according to Iamblichus in the book De Vita Pythagorica, number 4, simply because he invented this term, according to the ancient Hellenic tradition. So Pythagoras didn't invent philosophia. He just probably invented the name, that name. For Pythagoras, philosophia, associated with the way of Apollo, consists in a purification, in becoming aware of the divine principles, and in the assimilation to God. This Pythagorean way of life cannot be opposed to sacred rites, because the true and immortal divine nature is achieved not only by means of theoria or contemplation of the universal principles of harmony, but also through praxis, practical application, which is both ascesis, self discipline, and therapeia, self care. So, this kind of reminds me of original Buddhism to, attain illumination, quote unquote. The initiate ought to follow the eight path, um, and this eight steps, consisted, of course, self-discipline, self-care, fasting, no alcohol, no parties, no heavy food, and stuff like no music. In in the Greeks, times, I'm thinking about, those statues, those marble statues. Those were, people who was in shape. They exercised. They were bodybuilders, but all natural. Similar, the bodybuilding movement actually was very similar to the statues that we see, these marble statues from ancient times, just before they start using steroids. These bodybuilders was doing the same as the philosophers of ancient time. But you have to understand, people who practiced philosophy in ancient time, they had a certain amount of time to do so, right? They weren't, part of the the poorest of the poor. If you are poor, you have other concerns in surviving, eating, and shelter and stuff. Philosophy, was for the the wealthy, I would say. So they had time to construct their physique, and they had time to um, educate their mind. And it is this ascesis and therapia that is talking about. Um, Pythagoras himself conducted the hierarchic rituals behind a veil, but only those who had passed all 5-year tests, initiations, and necessary purifications were privileged to see the face of the philosopher, their divine hegemon or spiritual guide and leader. That's kind of weird. I bet he got this from the Egyptians. The Buddhists, at least the original Buddhists, they also, practiced this self-discipline, self-care, but they were slightly different. They would let go of all earthly possessions, and they would also let go of their family name. So they were a bit more radical, I would say, than the ancient Greeks. They would go and live in the woods. Abandoning your family name is, and all the earthly possessions, is the definition of born again. You see, to born again, like a river goes downstream, it has a name, it has a trajectory, it has a history. And when the river reaches the ocean, becomes part of the one, it lets go of the name and whole of its history. If you follow the analogy. Um, and that's what the apprentices of Buddhism did. So it was a bit different. Yet, they were, looking for the same thing, purifying the body, to have a purified mind. If you have a dirty body, your mind is not gonna work very well. This has been proven. We are being bombarded from all directions. The things we consume, the things we are bombarded, through frequencies and everything, and injected in us. It's messing up the body. When you mess up the body, the connection is damaged with the spirit. So the spirit cannot communicate as it used to. For instance, there's a ramping number of autism based on the modern world. Yes, this excess of the modern world, may it be food, pesticides, herbicides, glyphosates, and of course the juice that they put in the arm and all of those things. It's damaging the water. Ugh, the water, man, it's crazy. No matter no, the it's not amazing that why people are so crazy and unhinged nowadays. They are completely uh, out. So where was I? Out of themselves, out of their minds. I think that's the expression when someone is out of their mind. The mind is not working. So, thus, with certain subtle reservations, we should accept the claim made by Mr. David Fiedler. Yet, while Pythagoreanism remains closely related to the Orphic thought of the period, the clearly distinguishing factor between the two is that for the Pythagoreans, liberation from the wheel, or, the wheel of reincarnation, is obtained not through religious rituals, but through philosophy, the contemplation of the first principles. So this is, a challenge for organized religion because in the past you had to go through them. You had to pay your share. It was a Ponzi scheme, and it was like spiritual welfare. So when the Pythagoreans and the original Buddhists, and come along, and the original Egyptians come and say, no, philosophy is enough. It is, a singular voyage. It's a solo voyage. You don't need the company of a structure. No, no, you can do this by yourself. Where is it? Where was I? Hence, philosophy is a form of purification, a way to immortality. You will connect with the gods. You will walk with the gods first, and then eventually, when there's the breakup of the body and the spirit, you will eventually unify with the gods, as others have observed. Whereas the Eleusinian mysteries offered a single revelation or the Orphic and religious way of life, Pythagoras offered a way of life based in philosophy. However, philosophia, or rather philosophia, understood in the ancient sense, is a special way of life and education, paideia, as seeking of truth. Truth, wisdom is the goal, is modeled on the inner theurgic patterns and cosmic rhythms. You kind of have to follow your intuition, follow the cosmic rhythms. It's an intuitive path. The in a the ancient Buddhists, some of the initiates, they would get the philosophy in a minute. It was very intuitive, but others, they required a lifetime. Some would never understood the philosophy. It was simple, but not for everybody. It's based on cosmic rhythms. It's based on the noetic intuition. It depends. There's some people who are more sensible to those things. So it is a grave mistake to regard ritual, quote unquote, merely as an external ceremony, which injures the Protestant and modern iconoclastic sensibilities. No, ritual is not just, repeating mantras and gestures like during the convent. They were you know, spraying themselves with that water was similar to the holy water, and then they had the mask was similar, to the rosary beads, and they had all of those same rituals that yeah, it was so horrible. Ugh. You see, pathological control, people, they know this. In order to lock in the victim, force a ritual on everybody, and because they have something in common, it then becomes solidified in their brain that what in fact they've told you is true, because everybody's doing it, it's a confirmation bias. It's an echo chamber, oh, he's doing the ritual, then it must be true, that sort of thing. They know how to, manipulate your strings. So perhaps the wonder, quote unquote, which according to the ancients I'm sorry, provokes the birth of philosophy, has nothing arbitrary and spontaneous as understood by the modern liberal sense, because this secondary wonder repeats the primeval cosmological wonder. You see, the wonder, self analysis, self proximity. When you become, aware, is the birth of philosophy. The dictum from the East is know thyself, that thou art is a realization of the immortality of the self. In pharaonic Egypt, the wonder hymned by the Eastern bow, the spiritual manifestations of thought at the rise or rebirth of the sun reflects the eternal wonder which constitutes the blissful divine self consciousness at the appearance of the noetic son of Atumra, who stems from the abyss of the ineffable waters. It's the same story. You see, the divine Atumra, he went through the same parkour. He went through the same thing. He became self aware, self conscious. When he saw his image in the waters, you see, he saw his image when he heard his voice, when he breathed. You see, when he breathed for the first time, he became self aware. Um, and it's the same with us. It's like an analogy, atum, or the one, or the monad. You know, it's an analogy for the us, the you and I. It's just an analogy. When he first realized who he was, know thyself. It's a realization. And it all starts with wonder. When you start wondering, it is the beginning of philosophy, the beginning of self consciousness. Who art thou? Okay, I think I'm gonna shut up. This is just one page, but I've spoken, more than I've read. All right. Have a nice day.